Morning, call the meeting, our budget hearing meeting on Friday, October 30th to order. Apologize for being a little late. We had an issue we had to deal with this morning. So with us this morning to review their budget is Greg Armstrong on behalf of the courts. The judge is unavailable right now. Greg, we're here to review your budget request and go over your budget in general, really, and to for explanations on maybe why the big increases or the minor or capital expense costs that we see. This is not for personnel at this particular time, and that will be a later meeting with salary board. So Greg, leave it up to you, and maybe we can start off with the list we have before us. You know, the increases, the biggest increases we saw were staff training, seminars, went from like 5,600 in 2000, the request is almost $7,400 for next year. Can you explain were the dues increases or fee increases, etc.?
Well, there were a significant number of cancellations, and all judges down through myself and other staff members. So our year-to-date, we've only spent $1,100 as of when budget preparation occurred. So we're anticipating that there'll be catch-up next year for the judges, myself, whomever else needs to catch up on CLEs and needed information like that. But it's still too soon to know, unfortunately.
That's probably common with all departments, really, because they were one of it or couldn't attend physically, and it's all virtual. So, okay. MHMR review officer.
So that MHMR review officer, we have two attorneys appointed by the president judge who handle mental health reviews at the hospital. And we have seen a substantial increase in the amount of mental health referrals, both from the public and the police departments this year. I did get updated numbers, because I know our increase, get to the page here, I'm sorry. So our budget request for this for the 2020 year was $7,000. We've already received an extra $2,500 due to the increased usage. And as of yesterday, we have spent a total of $9,200. And we still have 2 months of the year to go, plus whatever bills for October have not been submitted yet. So we're anticipating a continued increase for next year. It's a little uncertain, unfortunately. There is some sort of reimbursement that occurs to that fund. I'm not quite sure where the money flows from, but that was what I was told. So it's not directly a cost.
So it's not a dollar for dollar cost, right?
And I don't have the exact details of how the county does get refunded on that. But it's unfortunate, but we're required to have these officers help the court with everything.
Subscriptions, books, why is this normal cost increase?
Yeah, that's the vendors control the book costs, and books unfortunately are becoming a more expensive item to maintain. But the legal references and everything the judges require for their jobs, they have to have them, and the cost increases are often out of our hands, unfortunately.
Okay, the sound equipment.
The technology one, that's a big one.
That's a big one.
And it is. And for the past several years, we've been investing several $1,000s in courtroom 1 and courtroom 2 in particular for upgrades. Those systems are, I don't even know how old they are, but we've had some components failing. The speaker quality is gradually deteriorated. And we have an informal list from our vendor, particularly about speakers, microphones, and different improvements like that. So that's where we're targeting $10,000 each for courtroom 1 and courtroom 2, just to keep them, replacing the older components. And
Go ahead.
The second part of that are the Polycom video units. They are a mobile video conferencing unit that is used to communicate with prisons or for different meetings that occur. They're used almost every day. They were purchased with state grant funding from the AOPC well over 10 years ago. Last year, 2 years ago in courtroom 2, we had to replace the main processor for that particular unit. That's $4,000 or $5,000 investment there, which is just for the processor. Courtroom 3 had its screen replaced this year, which was well over $1,000. So we've been unfortunately putting money into them, even though they're past their lifespan. So even, we're targeting getting 3 new ones, depending how funding works out. And we're not going to discard the older ones. We'll just, put them in other locations.
So they're at about 5,000 each?
No, they're more like 10,000 each.
10,000, that gets you to your 50,000.
Yes.
When you have them.
Anything else under courts you'd like to bring up, or any questions before we move on to the court IT system?
No, I don't have any
Yeah.
more comments.
Does the MJR have Polycoms also in all their offices? Or
The district courts?
Yeah.
Yes, they have smaller units that are
Yeah.
about the size of a 17-inch computer screen. The ones in the courtrooms are more like a 36-inch television screen.
And just not to jump off the subject, but it's related to courtrooms. What we've been looking at with the temporary courtroom, with the expectation to put a Polycom and sound system there funded under CARES grant money, or what are we thinking in regards to how to fund what you might need down there?
Personally, I was thinking CARES grant funding, combination of the sound system
Right.
with the Polycom of
Polycom.
some kind incorporated, so it's a unified, one system, and with the
Yeah.
long-term intention of repurposing those components
Yeah.
as older ones are
Yeah.
used up.
The only thing I would say with that, Greg, is we're getting ready to start reviewing here shortly what's coming in. We need to kind of earmark a portion of what we have remaining for a good estimate of that.
Right, and it's gonna have to be bought by the end of December and put into use by the end of
Well, we're
December.
getting, and that's definitely the intent of the court.
So currently I have one price for just the sound system. I'm waiting for a video component price to
Yeah.
accompany that. But we do have a second professional sound system that's being quoted probably over the weekend, which
Yeah.
would include a video unit.
Okay.
Then we've got to go
Okay.
cross-section.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions regarding courts before we get to the IT? Okay, let's move on to court IT.
So your first question was the online computer services. So that includes, there's a listing here for Verizon Wireless Services, TeamViewer, which is used by one of our consultants to remote diagnose issues and access our system. And GoToMyPC, they're very similar products there, but for different purposes. And we are seeing increased use of Zoom this year because of the nature of the COVID crisis. So that's where, I know there's like a $1,400 increase there.
Greg, another office, matter of fact, it was the clerk of courts, recognized that there was a much less expensive option than GoToMyPC, which is simply using a VPN system. So in lieu of doing a subscription to GoToMyPC, what she found is significant savings by just doing what we here and the commissioners do, is use a VPN,
Yeah.
which gives you that same access to your laptop and all your files.
And that would have been set up through the court's IT
Right.
person anyway.
Yeah.
Now, the GoToMyPC, I think, is used more by remote diagnostic type, not actual employees. This
Oh,
is more
okay.
about one of our consultants.
Oh, it comes in.
Yes.
Okay, into the system.
Because he's,
I see, yeah.
Mr. Fink is actively involved working with not only just the court's computer system, but Prothonotary,
Oh, I
Register
see.
of Wills.
Right.
So there is an awful lot of use
Okay.
going on that.
So that system has nothing to do with the state
No,
POPC system, that's totally
Okay.
separate.
correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And you're pretty well caught up on the upgrades of the computers from 7 to 10?
I'm not quite following you.
The Windows 7 and all the
I think she is,
programs,
yes.
pretty well, or computers been replaced that are compatible with Windows 10?
Yep. I think the clerk of court's office computers were the last ones that were in that bubble of needing to be replaced. And that's, I know they're purchased through that budget, but we actually buy them and install them.
And another big one is the
Minor computer hardware.
minor computer hardware is,
There are two particular items there that I want to discuss. The computer for prison live scan, that's the fingerprint machine. And that sits up at the prison. It's, the tradition here, the history of purchasing has always been through the court IT department. Now, there is a fund that
I was gonna say,
exists.
that should be coming out, that's an email on that should be coming out of
Exactly.
the booking fund.
Exactly. I don't know why it's always been done, but I flagged that yesterday and that's not right there. Now, whether we just get, keep it there, but then refund it or budget transfer or whatever, but,
No, I'll move it.
okay. And the second item are at the very end, number 3, FTR mixers. FTR stands for the record. It's the recording system in each courtroom. Unfortunately, those mixers are way beyond their end of life, and the vendor recommended replacing all 3. I mean, they're functional now, but that is the price to get all 3. And the 3 units we currently have, the manufacturer is no longer in business, so this is a different manufacturer to get those particular components.
the cloud backup. That's something you don't have now for the backup.
We have a limited cloud storage capability. With the new jury software that's coming online, we're going to need more remote storage capability with that.
Would that fall under the upgrade to the computer system then? That line item? But is that gonna be an annual fee? Or just a one-time?
I don't know, I'm sorry, I just don't know if she's actually buying a component in order to upload more information to the existing cloud backup or not. But either way, it's a larger data storage requirement.
It would most likely be a recurring, for
Afraid of-
storage, if you're increasing storage, right?
Yeah. And we have 2 backup systems, just, there's a tape, or a solid state drive backup system that we really on the site, and then we have the secondary cloud backup, so we're in 2 locations. I know you had noted about Miner's computer software. I did have a note here that you'll see there's a 3-year license for our antivirus and malware protection. They've traditionally always purchased in a 3-year increment for some sort of discount rather than going year by year.
Anything else major under IT?
Nope.
Okay. TJ, Jim Thorpe.
The office staff requested 4 desks. That's, has not been fully researched yet. It was an estimate of what we thought desk would fit for cost for each of those 4 secretaries up there. And the second and related is the new district court office in Weatherly. Since there wasn't really a firm budget established for the relocation to get staff newer, larger, more ergonomic desks, we sort of agreed that let's put it in next year's budget while we continue running up the prices and make sure we are getting something that's very useful for the staff and cost effective. And that's just an estimate based on some preliminary research we had conducted. And then the district,
Equipment falling apart, the desk?
they're not falling apart, but they're very undersized and very uncomfortable for the staff to use. That office has a tremendous amount of traffic tickets, and they are constantly processing paper. And to set a computer on the existing desk space, and there's typewriters in use at times, plus other, desktop type items.
I'm sorry, did I hear you say typewriters?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
There are forms that you still have to use a typewriter.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
And I think, I mean, with the furniture, we're going through these building projects, and actually in some of these offices that are being moved, some of their desks actually are too big
Yeah.
for what we're
space.
doing, so
Yeah.
once like 44 gets done, we might possibly have a couple desks that we're not even using, because they are too large for, like in a cubicle. I mean, some of them desks are pretty big.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think planning might be some of them that are pretty large, there might be
For
2 or
their
3 of
space.
them in there
Yeah.
that are too big for the new building.
And we did, Commissioner Lucas Savage and I didn't
Yeah.
speak about that. Unfortunately, there's no pictures to show like,
Yeah.
how did it look
It is.
assembled?
Right, yeah.
But
Yeah.
maybe we can figure that out in the next couple of months. So,
So it's basically the same thing for the Weatherly DJ's office, but that's a $24,000 request for new office
well,
furniture.
that includes a suite of furniture for the judge.
What,
The judge himself has, his office furniture is aged as well as the secretaries out front and other pieces.
so everything's up and running at the new DJ's office?
For the most
100%?
part, yeah, we're still working through a couple little phone line issues and things like that. But even the borough's having, a couple little wrinkles here and there.
Ellie, what is the Jim Thorpe District Court, the new lease that they took the option to increase? Do you recall how high that was it? Because I think we're,
I think it was $100 a month.
so now it's 1,800? Would that be right? I just saw, I see 1,700 listed here, I just looked, not just a slight modification. I just checked the new,
She did, Colleen did give that to me. It's in my pack. It's in
okay,
here.
so we just need to update it on this.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah. $24,000 is a lot of furniture. There's a lot of.
It says requesting a copier scanner, Max?
Yes.
The
So they,
reason, the other one?
What
you have?
they currently have a desktop model that fits, it's not like what the rest of the offices have here with the full size and scope of the volume of copying it needs to occur up there. It functions, it's more about updating and upgrading their abilities.
So that will be a lease?
It'll be
Right.
similar to whatever is done for the
So,
current.
and then lease?
Yes.
Yeah, So Jeff, are we able just to get a more accurate number on that based upon what we have in our office, just going,
I'll check with Rhonda.
yeah?
Your estimate, was that for a new one then versus a
Yes.
lease? That was the amount of a new one.
That was basically, I believe they spoke with the staff in Palmerton about their recent acquisition over the last year or two, just to get an idea of what they were.
Oh, because they purchased in Palmerton?
I believe
Versus-
so. And I don't know the details of how.
Right, yeah.
There's always like a per copy fee that
Right,
companies
yeah.
for service.
Greg, in Weatherly, the priority of furniture goes to who? The employees or the judge?
There is no priority right now. It was hopefully purchased as a unit with,
Sure.
executive furniture for the judge and very functional and
Mm.
accessible furniture for the staff to
Yeah.
use. And there are 5 secretaries that work in that office.
Oh, yeah.
And that number also probably includes filing cabinets, so it's not just desks.
Right, yeah.
Because we're trying to, unfortunately, the building was designed over 10 years ago, and the volume of their work has increased by thousands upon thousands of traffic cases alone since that time period. So filing space is desperately needed. Filing room.
Any other observations, any requests or questions? Any, Rocky?
No, not really.
No, I mean, that's,
You good?
yeah.
Jeff, you good?
Yep.
You have any questions, comments, Greg?
No, I don't.
Okay,
We're good.
yeah, you good then? Thank you for coming in.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
A few minutes, I don't know if the sheriff is here yet.
Do you want to recess, or do you want to call them over?
Let's call him over. Rocky, 3121.
3021.
3021.
You have reached the voicemail box of Tony Murphy.
3122. Okay, our first deputy, hopefully, not Michelle or somebody.
It's Jody.
Jody.
Okay.
Hi, you have reached Jody Smith.
Nobody wants to answer
I think
anything.
that's,
3024? I was just gonna text them.
yeah, I was gonna,
Thanks, Greg.
Sure, Papa.
Tara, is Tony there? Guys, we're in our meeting, and, no, and is he available? Like, we're a little ahead of schedule. If you want, yeah, if you want to tell him to come over whenever he's ready. Yeah, okay, all right, yep, bye.
Is he in there?
Yeah.
I sent them a text.
Well, he might be having a meeting with somebody or something, who knows?
I sent them a text, but.
Don't we actually even, do we have something on him?
Did we not go for a second?
He said, how about 10:45?
Sure.
Okay.
Till he walks over here, it's gonna be 10:40 anyway.
Ellie, did we get paperwork from him,
Who?
from Tony,
Yeah, put it in your box.
just today?
No, Wednesday.
Yeah,
Should be a whole packet.
It's this one.
And then a whole packet of copy, a whole copy.
Oh, the one that had that pink on it?
Yeah.
It had pink, and then there was also
Yeah.
his narrative attached.
Yeah, I have it in here somewhere.
Because my
Oh,
comment,
here it
my
is.
comment to you guys was,
Okay,
I don't need to say anything, it's all here in the narrative.
okay, all right.
Right, that's right, yeah.
Just,
It's
it's every,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll be good.
Rocky, what were you thinking, in regards to the library request for addition?
What were they looking for?
What was they're going up from what, to 3,000?
I mean,
From 1,200? 12,
1,200, there's 6 of them, right? 1,200, because the budget's 72.
Weatherly, yeah, yeah.
There were 6 of them.
Weatherly, Panther Valley, Palmerton, Lehighton, Dimick. It's 5 now, because Penn Kidder is now a branch
It was
of
6,
the Dimick.
but our budget was $7,200, 100
Right.
each one for the 6.
yeah, and like I said before, I think, in my opinion, I don't think they got enough,
I agree.
you know, and it's, I said it's important.
Yeah.
You know, everybody thinks everything's online, but
Yeah.
people go in there to do applications.
Yeah.
They research history, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
a very important part, I think, of the county.
Right.
I don't mind giving
Yeah.
them more, you
I'd
know,
like
it's,
to go up.
I think it should.
Yeah.
Now, what we can afford, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well,
And what do we get,
1,200 per is what we're doing. Now, we have a little tweak we're gonna have to do because Penn Kidder and Dimick are now one.
Yeah,
So, you know, that's something we have to be considerate of, because this is the only library in Carbon County that has a branch. You
and,
know?
and what do they serve versus, you know what I mean, like, do they ever have numbers on what they serve?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Maybe-
yeah, I mean, it is detailed.
I mean, maybe we'd have to just go off
Yeah.
that and look at it and determine like, well, maybe this one could get so much for the
Yeah.
libraries.
Oh,
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
Look a
because
little
that
bit.
request, I think we were saying went up from 1,200, but going to 3,000. Well, that's what they requested, wasn't it? 3,000 each?
I think, yeah,
Yeah.
3,000
Yeah.
each. What did we up it before to 1,500?
No, we were only at 12.
Only at 12.
I mean, that's very minimum, I think.
Mhm.
I don't know. See what we
do so
can,
much.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then it creates pressure on other
Yeah,
organizations,
I know.
right? Or, you know, who did.
That's
But
the
again,
other
I mean, you kind of get the squeaky wheel gets the
Yeah.
oil, right? And the libraries took it upon themselves to come here and, you know.
All the libraries, I live in Monroe, so all the libraries in Monroe they got tax. They went for the tax.
They have a,
Oh,
they
okay,
do a
they-
tax.
They
yeah.
did a
A
referendum
on
on
that.
tax millage. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right on my tax bill.
isn't that how the fire company did it too or something? Didn't they try that?
They have that 2 mil
Yeah.
tax. And
Yeah, but
they
that didn't
take
go
it
through,
on, that's different than,
most of them probably didn't go through referendum for fire,
Yeah.
though, I know
Yeah.
in my township.
Well, that's
they
what I
just put it
thought, they
on.
would have done a referendum where maybe land preservation, fire service, emergency services, and libraries.
right?
You know, kind of .25, let them vote on it, and let the public decide if they want to do that. And then you apportion it, you know. So Jeff, overall, do we know how much the sheriff budget has increased? Maybe just
Yeah.
in dollars?
Yeah, and then that, oh, there's the column.
'Cause I didn't add.
It was
Oh, okay.
1.3. 2.6, now it's 1.6, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
$275,000
yeah.
is the increase. Now,
Yeah,
I will just make a comment, we pulled the, now 145 of that is capital, which we pulled out of his budget last year and paid for out of the capital projects fund, so 100 and, what did I just say?
275, is that right?
138, and so 145 of that 275 is, 146 of that 275 is capital he's requesting this year in his budget that we took out last year and moved to the capital projects fund, so. And only some of that may be able to move again, but kind of used up a lot of the availability for the small stuff in the capital
So
projects.
we're
fund.
talking a 10 or 15% increase, right?
Correct. Mhm. Yeah, with various line items.
Yeah.
Staff training, office supplies.
I'll be curious to ask them to prioritize.
Now,
them.
there's another issue.
Yeah.
120 of that minus 30, from 90 to 95,000 of that, he's one of the few that does it when we tell him not to do it. He puts personnel requests in his personnel number. So 95 of that additional, of that increase is
95,000.
also related to personnel, which we won't discuss today, of course, but, so he has some personnel numbers in his increase already.
Right,
So
so
overall,
built
you're-
into a program like he has the personnel
Yeah.
included, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so really, I mean, there's, it comes down to the major issues are, you know, you got a minor computer hardware, which he goes over, you know, minor equipment. And then his capital stuff is pretty much the main issues.
And vehicle,
Another vehicle.
2 vehicles.
yeah.
The 93 is 2,
For 93,
But-
yeah.
which I'm assuming you guys know, the one that he wanted to replace
Yes, yeah.
is pretty much, has to be replaced, from what I've heard based on the other day,
Yeah.
so.
And is that one of them, is that one that had to be replaced or,
It's a 2010 Crown Vic, so you.
no, but I'm saying, was it needed?
Uh, My understanding was it over 200,000 miles on it, did not.
But I'm just saying, if we have so many cars, if we have the amount of cars, was that car actually needed? Because it was one of those cars that the doors didn't lock in the back or whatever, so they really couldn't use it for transportation. Was it just for a car to run back and forth?
I
You know
can't
what I
answer
mean?
that.
I don't,
I don't know the answer, you got to ask him.
you know what I mean? If they need a vehicle for transporting, that's different. You know what I mean? But if they weren't really using it for transporting right now, what was it being used for?
I don't know, but when it happened, they had to come and get one of your vehicles to go pick them up, because they didn't have a vehicle available,
Okay.
We used
I
to
believe.
give them a vehicle for a deputy sheriff to get to the magistrate's office on a Wednesday. And that's fine because they're just there for security. But I think the sheriff will tell you that all of his vehicles have to be equipped to carry someone.
Right.
Well, you never know if you're there and somebody could get sentenced and, I mean, right there, they could do something and I don't know how that works. I mean, you could be going to the magistrate and think everything's all fine and the next thing you gotta transport somebody. I mean, is that the situation
I
that
think
they
the
would be
police
in?
I think the police that's involved with the case are doing the transport then.
Okay,
Yeah.
The deputy is only there for security purposes.
okay.
I did notice under office renovations, there should be consideration to house deputies at a temporary off-site location. And not to talk real estate or anything, but I think if that becomes something we want to
Yep.
discuss, I think we have some options
Yeah,
based on.
yeah.
Up there,
Okay.
Yeah, so if
you gotta be on video.
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
I'm gonna, the captain helped me prepare the budget, okay for him to come up here?
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning?
We didn't turn it off, did we?
Are we live yet?
Yes,
Oh,
we are live.
Yeah.
okay.
I wanted to, there might have been some security issues I wanted to discuss.
Can it wait till after the meeting?
Well, it may directly relate to some of the requests.
Well, so,
Okay, I'm just gonna refer to them as, how about if I just refer to them as security matters?
okay. Yes. Okay, with us now, we are gonna be reviewing the sheriff's budget and request for the upcoming year. At this time, it's Nothing to do with the personnel, really. We discussed later at a salary board executive session. So
Okay.
that's to review the changes or explanation for the increases of revenue or expenses in certain line items.
Okay.
We have Sheriff Harvella here just for the media, or those that viewing this, Sheriff Harvella and Dan Ziegler, Chief Deputy, I guess your title is, or
Captain.
change, okay? Okay. You start going over?
You want me to just get started?
Sure, yes.
Okay, so when we looked at the budget request, I know that the commissioners are interested in the increase from year to year. And I just wanted to make clear that when we looked at the budget increase, trying to be good stewards, we compared the numbers from our budget request for this year and our approved 2020 budget. And the increase from last year to this year is about $232,000. But I want to make clear that a certain portion of that increase is for funds that are beyond our control for wages and salary. So according to our rough figures, it's about $123,000. And then there are also some maintenance agreements that are pre-approved. They're about $4,000. So the increase in the budget then, if you subtract out those costs that are beyond our control, comes down to about $109,000. And there are two items that are security-related items that have to do with the courthouse, not directly related to the sheriff's office, but that come under the sheriff's budget. And they would be for some security concerns, and I will reference them by number without getting into details. So they would be listed under,
Are you gonna be going off exhibit A then?
correct.
Okay.
So it will be under 8,000, 8,100, and 8,000, 8,400 on the exhibit.
Page 5.
Correct.
Thank you.
So if you would subtract those out from the increase, it comes down to about a $50,000 increase in actual equipment and those kinds of things that aren't personnel related or aren't security related. And that's from our figures, it's a little over 3%. So as you go down through the budget.
I'm sorry, Tony, explain
Yes.
that again, why you're excluding those from your increase?
Because they would be general county security concerns not directly related to the sheriff's office. So it would be something that would be recommended for building security and not directly related to the need for our normal operating expenses. These are
So-
just security matters.
Recommending that security changes for maybe different departments, which we would have to reconsider our previous budget meetings, and that would change everything we already went over.
Because shouldn't we be apportioning, if you're saying $100,000 X to cover these offices, those offices should be budgeting for that.
Correct,
portion of-
and it was my understanding that they were gonna make that part of their budget process.
Which I don't think, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you
Those
discussed
two-
it with them?
I
Those
did.
couple offices have already been in and they did not speak to a word of it. So
I don't
Yeah,
see
so,
They did
so
not ask
under
for
the,
that.
under the budget narrative, when I spoke to those, the last sentence under 8,100 is individual office holders were advised that they will have to provide the justification for these requests.
Yeah, no, I haven't
Okay.
seen one,
Okay,
yeah.
so I just wanted to make it known that there weren't, those are the kind of costs that aren't directly related to the sheriff's office.
And then, so I'm gonna throw a question.
Go ahead.
I understand there are union contracts,
Yes,
but you stated that 123,000 are beyond our control. So outside of union contractual obligations, again, this isn't personnel, but you brought it up, so why is that 123,000 beyond our control, meaning your control?
They would be for wage increases.
Don't you recommend wage increases for your personnel? I mean, other than union stipulations,
Correct.
so it is in our control.
Well, it's listed as part of the budget process, it's already included in the budget. So the increase that we're showing there,
Are we obligated to provide those increases that you've included?
that's a good question, because I'm just going off what the personnel services for the department had requested are. These aren't totals that we added, these are totals that were automatically added to the personnel cost.
When we got
So,
it, they were in there.
so they were already in there calculated.
Okay. All right, and we're working on the assumption, though, that they may put
Correct.
in 3% or whatever.
Correct.
Got it,
That's-
okay,
that's-
good.
It's
yeah.
just the
But
annual
that has
increase.
not been the practice in the past, or nor is
We
it.
put in
now.
for you, we put the union ones in.
The one you.
Anything
no,
that's union related
that-
goes into the numbers that she provides.
So there's a
on the scale.
$123,000 increase in union?
Shouldn't be.
Right, so if
So
you
I
can
don't-
just
I got-
relook that, because I don't want to see the sheriffs being unfairly weighed with a burden that they.
I'm going by the budget document that I was
Yeah,
provided with,
Perfect,
okay?
yeah, and that may be on our end.
Correct,
Right.
correct. I'm just assuming that if I was provided this number, the county
Right.
was calculating
Yeah.
it. And I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure
they're
that,
probably gifting you that or some crazy thing.
I'll take it.
You're right, no, understandably, yeah.
okay,
Right,
so
that's
I just wanted to make that clear that, you know, when we go into our additional requests for funding here, that we're assuming that those are items beyond our control.
Yep.
And that includes like social security taxes and so forth.
Yeah.
So if we're going down line item by line item for increases, we're going, and I'm working off both the budget worksheet and the addendum. In 5305, some of these things are already addressed as uncontrolled costs, but there was a slight increase in the annual cost for our maintenance agreement with Telesoft, $348. In 5361, there's an increase of $3,000, and that is to address radio maintenance issues. Now, we were doing pretty good until last year, and we had a cost for radio maintenance issues, and we anticipate we're gonna have continued radio maintenance issues. So we increased that, and that would also include a cost that would be related to a line item on down when we are requesting VHF police radios. So that will be part of that cost.
Like, radio maintenance jumped from 1,028, the amount, okay.
Yeah, we had an unexpected cost in radio maintenance this year, and we want to be prepared for that for next year. Okay, and then we move on to telephone, 6103. And that is for an additional phone that was added for the captain's position and also for related increases in phone costs. As we move down to 6301, we ask for an increase of $1,050, and that is mostly to fund 2 deputies to receive firearms instructor training. So right now, we have 1 part-time instructor for firearms. We don't feel that's adequate for the amount of individuals we have. And we would prefer to have 2 full-time deputies trained in that. So that would take up the increase in the request in 6301.
If I could.
Yes.
Tony, the parks gave very high regard to the training that they received. The
That's
park
good to hear.
ranger. No, very, very positive. He said it's the best he's had since leaving the service.
So
Really.
that's a
Yeah.
good point, Commissioner,
Yeah.
because we provide defensive tactics training for more than just the sheriff's office and firearms,
Yeah.
to probation and to the parks. So we want to make sure we're up to date on those items. And on 6799, other operating expenses, we asked for an additional $210 because during this last year, we had to replenish our first aid supplies, and it was an unexpected cost, so we'd like to increase that so we have monies to refurbish our first aid kits. As we move on to 7101, this is a little bit confusing because we have a significant increase in this line item because 7102 was eliminated, and we were asked to move that into 7101. So that we had last year was a $3,800 item. It's up by about $6,000, so if you subtract the $3,800 from the $6,000, it's an increase of about $2,200. And we are asking that because we have to replace needed forms for triplicates. We're changing some of the forms that we're using, and we anticipate that it's going to cost about that to replace all those forms. As we move down into 7110. This is another one that has some subtractions from it, I guess I should say. There was in 7599, we had duty gear that was originally in 7599, but purchasing asked us to not use 7599 for that and to put it into 7110. So the increase was actually about $16,600. But if you subtract the ongoing expenses for duty gear, it actually brings the increase down to slightly under $12,000 in that line item. If you subtract the $47,677 we had in that budget item for last year from the $16,678 we have on our request this year, it comes down to just under $12,000 increase. And although we have various items listed there for the commissioners to show the exact amount of money we need for each item, we would say that the majority of the $12,000 actually comes from a request for VHS law enforcement radios. Now let me talk a little bit about that. So the radios that we have in our vehicles right now are UHF and are only on a county band. So when we go out to do operations, every contact we have with local law enforcement or state police, we have to route through 911 center. So if we can obtain a VHF radio, a portable VHF radio for each of our vehicles, we would be able to enhance our communication with local law enforcement. And we think that that's very important right now, especially with the kind of activities that we're responding to. So the good part about that $6,000 estimated cost is we were able to find a spot where we may be able to get refurbished radios at half the cost. We don't know that yet. So we just wanted to indicate that we were requesting the amount of money for new radios, but if we can obtain the refurbished radios, it would be about half that cost, or $3,000.
And what are the refurbished? Do they have,
They were
I'm
from,
sure they're not gonna have the same warranty that a new one would.
correct.
So,
The option we have is to take radios that a former police agency had and that they upgraded, and we can use those. So, we'd be able to accomplish what we need to accomplish with communications, but that's a good point, Commissioner, is, they
I
need
mean, when you
refurbished.
dealt with radios, if they did that, are they just as good as the new ones
Yeah,
are?
well, a lot of these. I
Usually the
would say
warranty's the same,
are-
actually.
Oh, is it?
Okay, there you go.
All right.
So,
Some
and then,
come from other agencies that maybe changed bands or something like,
Right,
or
correct.
other upgrades, et cetera.
correct. So, and then, falling back to our earlier conversation about the radio maintenance costs, we included monies in that previous budget line item to do the programming for these radios. And then another $6,000 to address the increase of almost $12,000 was a request to provide outer carriers for the ballistic vests that our deputies use. So right now, the deputies use their ballistic vests under their uniforms. When we perform off-duty warrant processing and other requests we have for external operations, it's best to have an outer carrier so that we don't have to be in exact, dress uniform and we can wear the vests outside. It also allows officers to add more equipment that they can carry on their vests. And it's actually a lot faster to deploy, especially after hours, if we don't have to do it the other way,
So
so.
put it on in a minute instead of.
Correct, and everything is there,
Would that
so.
replace the other vests that we have?
No, these are just the carriers, so
Yeah, so
right
that's
now,
what-
the ballistic vests they have are ballistic panels, and when they wear them, they put it in a carrier that fits under their uniform. They would take the panels out of those and put them in these, and these have a stronger exterior with MOLLE attachments on them so that they could attach whatever they need.
And they have a lifespan as well as the interior of the panels?
Yes. Yeah,
What is that
they last,
lifespan?
these last a long time.
These have a longer lifespan.
I would say because they're not up against your body, and they wouldn't be used on a daily basis like the other ones do.
So the ballistic vests have a 5-year shelf life?
Correct.
The carriers do not.
Right.
So you can use, if we were to get new vests, interior, the panels, and they have to be replaced every 5 years, the outer carriers, we don't need to do that. It's not
Correct.
a
It's just a
replacement
vest.
cost every 5 years.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
So that addresses the increase for 7110. If we go to 7112, and that is computer hardware. So in last year's budget, we asked for some additional mobile Toughbook laptops. The Toughbook laptops are heavy-duty laptops that our officers use in the field. And they are rated for drops and all those kinds of things. So last year, we requested them, they weren't approved, so we had to do without them. This year, we have a new position, and so we're asking for 2 of those units so that each of our deputies will have one. That was our goal, so that we're able to perform our duty while we're in the office and while we're out of the office. This came into play this year when we had to partially close because our deputies still had full access to everything they needed to do. And they were able to dock these stations in the cars. That's another thing that allows us to do that. These actually dock into the car for power and for the access to the programs that we have. So we would like to be able to fully equip all of our deputies, and we're asking for 2 units to do that.
And is that similar to the one like Mark got? The last thing?
I don't know.
Yeah, he just got one, like, what was it, in the last month, I think?
Yeah, these are the ones that our deputies
Yeah.
already have. We
Yeah,
just need 2
'cause that's-
more so that everyone has one.
Yeah, because that price seems like, actually, I think it might be $150 less than what we actually
No.
gave for the one.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I thought that this cost was less than when we purchased them the first time.
Yeah,
Not by much.
yeah, and that might
Right.
be.
Right, so with our Telesoft program, we do a lot of document scanning. So we added the captain's position this year, we would like to add a document scanner for that position. And since we renovated the deputy workspace, now we're looking to have a document scanner that all the deputies could use in that workspace instead of going out to the clerical area and using it there, that it could stay secure in the deputy workspace for those kind of documents that are confidential. So we asked for 2 of those.
Are these desktop models?
They are.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and they just plug right into the PC, Commissioner. In addition to that, Court IT has advised us that 2 PCs and 1 printer are on a schedule for replacement because of the age and compatibility issues. They were priced at $1,700 each, and a compatible printer is also outdated. We're having issues, I think it was with toner on that one. The next item is a laptop docking station. So we had 1 vehicle that did not have the docking station in it. And with the purchase of this docking station, all of our vehicles will be able to have docking stations for all of the portable laptops. And then finally, the panic alarm system that was in this year's budget is currently being cost approved. We're waiting for that estimate to come in for the commissioners to approve it. It was in this year's budget. One of the things that was recommended to us that it's actually monitored via a computer laptop. One of the options we are going to have is it would be monitored along with our video array in the sheriff's office for the closed circuit television monitors. And it was recommended that we use a different computer to monitor that rather than the same computer that monitors the cameras. So it was suggested that we get a laptop computer and that we can have that on the desk space there. There isn't a lot of space in that room there to do it. And the recommendation was to have a laptop computer to be able to monitor those.
Monitor a panic button. Wouldn't it simply be a dashboard on a computer screen? I mean, you're not looking at anything visually. You're talking a device there. I don't understand what you're monitoring, other than when someone hits it and a window pops up, flashing red or whatever, so I don't understand.
Well,
that.
the issue is that we don't have a display to see that. So that's why we thought the laptop, instead of having a computer monitor, we don't really have the space for it. If we had a laptop, the laptop would be able to display whatever issues there are. Now, this system is completely automated.
Right, exactly.
So, and then who's ever monitoring it can be sending out notices for people to check to do a security check on their buttons and those kinds of things, and they could actually send messages with it. So we were looking for some display that we could have off to the side rather than a monitor, because then we'd have to use the same PC. If we just got a monitor, we'd have to use the same PC that we use for the video array, and we wanted to keep that separate. So a laptop would accomplish both those goals by giving us a separate unit to be associated with the panic alarm system and to give us a display off to the side. So that would take care of the increase that we asked for in 7112. Let's see here. There was a slight increase in 7113, and that was an approximate $400 increase for the second year of a 3-year contract for the clear background retrieval system. When we move on to 7575, that was an increase of 2920, and the basic justification for that is for on-call uniforms. So as explained in the justification here, when our deputies are on call, they're not required to be in full uniform. So they have a BDU type uniform that they use when they're doing that. And right now they have one shirt and one pair of slacks. Generally, when these people are on call, they're on for multiple days. And the complaints that we get, and I think for hygienic purposes, I think they're correct, is that they have to launder them every day. So we would like them to be able to have some additional items to wear. And the other consideration is that they've had these off-duty uniforms for several years now, and we're having some wear issues. So it's not only to provide them with some extras, but to also replace some that are wearing.
How many deputies do you have on call at any given time?
2.
Two
There's
normal.
always 2 on call, yes. 1 primary, 1 secondary. When we get to 7599, we actually have a decrease there, and that was what I referenced earlier. We used to have duty gear in that same line item, so that was moved up to the other areas, so that's what the decrease is for. And then we're moving on to the 8600, the law enforcement vehicles. We're requesting 2. We had 2 vehicles this year that went out of service and were decommissioned. One was for repair and one where we had a recent crash and it was on its way out anyway. I think one vehicle had 168,000. I think the other one had 130,000. So we would like to have those 2 vehicles replaced. As we indicated in our Our justification here, we need to maintain a fleet of 10 cars, we believe, because of the increase in staffing we had. When I first came on the scene, we had 7 vehicles and including the sheriff, 12 full-time deputies. We now have 17 full-time deputies, increase of about 40%. And if we add the 3 vehicles, one of the vehicles was the transport van. And if we maintain the current fleet we have at 10, that's about a 40% increase from the 7 vehicles we had. So it's in congruence there with the amount of cars. I will say that even with the 10 vehicles, there were times when we didn't have enough vehicles to cover magistrates on Wednesdays, and we had to come to the commissioner's office for some vehicles. So, we feel that at a minimum, we need the 10 vehicles.
And that was my question with that one. Now, the one that, say, was destroyed the other day.
Yes.
That's the 10th vehicle.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are all them vehicles, I mean, when they're driving back and forth, obviously they're using our cars if
Right.
you run out. Do all of these vehicles have to have, can they just be a regular vehicle for them to go back and forth?
Well,
I mean, I'm just looking at it, like you wanna add more cars on.
Right.
Is it better to just, I mean, it's expensive getting a car fully equipped,
right.
that if you wanna get more, would it be easier to have these, that you would have one car that would just be for somebody driving back and forth?
No, because when we do any of those driving back and forth, as soon as those vehicles hit the lot, they're for the use of the deputies.
Okay.
So, we like to be able to know that we have those vehicles available to us. Now, again, we're faced with some security concerns coming in the future here, and we don't think we're gonna have enough vehicles to do that. So, we're trying to make some contingency plans to make sure we do have enough vehicles if we have to respond to any situation that's coming up in the near future.
Tony, how many cars are you gonna replace in '22? How many in '23? Is there a projection?
Well,
Or-
yeah,
I'm
so-
trying to
so-
understand the.
Yeah, so
turnover.
what we try to do there, Commissioner, is we
Yeah.
try and gauge the condition of the vehicle.
Yeah.
So, based on what we have so far, I'm just gonna make a wild prediction here and say we'll probably be looking to replace one next year. And we like to go by the mileage.
Right.
Generally, we did a quick check. We're putting over 100,000 miles on all the vehicles every year. That's just an average.
Yeah.
So our best scenario would be to keep all cars under 100,000 miles, and once they reach 100,000 miles, we'd be seeking replacement. Now, we have a couple of vehicles that are closing in on that. I'm not sure.
Did we switch any of your vehicles to the lease program?
No, we did
Or
not.
we still all purchase, outright purchases for?
They've been outright purchases.
Or
Yeah.
they have been to this point?
The issue that we had for that was the equipment.
Yeah, the
Right,
least,
yeah.
the least ones
I
might
don't
be
know
an
if they
issue,
can buy the engine. That's
like you're
Maybe
leasing and
separate
then
engine?
all the
I think-
equipment has to
I
be
think they
installed.
do
Right,
now.
and
When
then
you turn it back
when you
in.
turn it back in,
For the-
there's a
the DA
cost
request.
associated with,
Plus you gotta
they
lease
call
it
it the
Yeah,
modifications that
Yeah,
were done.
commission.
Right. So, I did have a sheet here.
yeah, cause a vehicle could be purchased for
So,
30,000 and has $20,000 worth of equipment on it, or
Right.
whatever, whatever it is.
Right,
Then
so-
what do you do when you release them?
right,
I
so
think
we
it's a
have,
problem.
we have one car now that has 116,000 miles on it. That would be the one we'd be looking to replace next year. But after that, most of the other vehicles are under 60,000. So I'm saying that it's possible that after we replace the one next year, the following year, we may not be requesting any new vehicles because everything will be under 100,000.
I think what Chris is looking at, maybe a routine, so we aren't on
Yeah,
the budget one every year or two, whatever it
Right,
takes
just
to get the miles,
program
instead
it.
of 2 this year, 0 next year, et cetera,
Yeah.
Right.
Try to
Let's
get
even
on
it out,
rotation
so-
basis.
And I
for
think that
budget
I think that after this year, we could probably do that. Now,
Yeah.
again, when I came on the scene, there were vehicles that needed repair for the years that
Yeah.
were there. So we're trying to catch
Catch
up
up.
Well, that's
to get to where we need to be. But I think after this year,
that was the reason we went to the
next year we
lease,
anticipate one.
program because of the condition
right,
of
and the
vehicle.
following year or years, we may not need.
And you could keep more of a consistent budget instead
Correct.
of raising it
A big
100,000 and
jump,
then none, and
pyramid
then
jump.
150,000.
I think initially we always thought that it would be one a year, but then, we had these other vehicles that were in disrepair. So that is as far as that goes on the budget worksheet. Now, on On the justification, there were some other items on there. One has to do with personnel, but the other has to do with space requirements for the sheriff's office. And, I wasn't sure what to include in there for costs, because in the past, we did some renovations to the sheriff's office because of issues we had with overcrowding. And if you reference the narrative, just to be, just in brief terms, we have 33 positions in the sheriff's office, including 20 full-time and 13 part-time. And as you know, the layout of the sheriff's office only has 17 workstations. So even if we include the video array and the areas at each of the entry buildings for people to be, there are still 13 employees that don't have a desk or a place to sit.
How many sheriffs do you have on a shift? Right, you don't have are all of them working every day?
All full-time are, and we usually have about half of the part-timers, which is about 4 out of 8. And all our and usually we have 3 security guards on at a time. So there's probably only 4 or 5 part-timers that aren't here. So when we talked about it, we're looking for space for full-time staff, at least 3 workstations, because we have 3 full-timers who don't have a desk. They have nowhere to sit.
Yeah.
And we're looking for 5 workstations to be shared by part-timers. So the way we look at it, we're looking for 3 workstations and 5, we need 8 spots for people to sit, so that we would at least have someone to be able to sit. So again, as the commissioners go forward with your plans for office renovations, we just want to make sure that you're aware of our need, and we're looking, for your help in that regard. Unless there's any other questions, I think that covers all the increases on our budget.
I think what we're gonna have to do is, because of the next phase, once we get the office building done, is decide or come up with a ballpark figure that we may have to put together for office renovations because of the moves, and try to find space. It's still in need of space.
Right, so and the only reason why we included it in here is we didn't know if there was gonna be any costs associated with it. We just wanted to alert the commissioners that if it's gonna be a long-term situation, we may have to come to you for a short-term solution in the sheriff's office until we can get there.
Yeah, that would come under our maintenance and not the departments, more or less. Would that come, where would that fall under? The county maintenance, or would it fall under the sheriff's office? If we're doing maybe 2 or 3 offices over there, let's say, at least 2 that we know of right now.
That would be a project.
Yeah, we would have, that would be a capital project.
It's in the project, yeah, that's why.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, so I think, and like I think
Not
the
per se,
suggestion
no.
was before, like, we should try and start on something now to figure, you know what I mean?
Right,
To figure out what we wanna
Yeah,
do
once we
next
get the
year.
Right.
program
Yeah,
started,
yeah.
sit
Planning
down and-
process.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have to
yeah,
sit with the
and-
judges
and-
on that, so.
Right. So, we realize that this thing is gonna take a while,
Mhm.
but because of our immediate need, we may have to ask for some temporary space somewhere, either in the courthouse or other locations, or recalibrating the space we have with workstations again, but that, we just wanted to make the board aware of
All
that,
right.
and that's all we have.
Jeff, as far as the funds that are owed to the sheriff, that'd go right from the sheriff's fee fund for training and that. And what's owed to us by the state is probably well over 70,000 by now. I don't know what the figure is.
It
but
is,
that would just go back into the general fund anyway.
it does.
Correct, because the
Yeah, we
general fund
already
paid for
paid
the
it
bill.
out of the
It's
general
green sheeted
fund,
right
so
in.
it's not gonna
Right.
help the general fund, but it really won't
Yeah.
help the sheriffs for now.
No, they already spent the money.
Yeah, and I haven't seen the latest update from this association, so.
Right, I think the fee bill is now in committee and it passed one area, so,
Yeah, it passed the House, or the Senate, and it's in House appropriations and is supposed to be, and I didn't see it on the calendar yet, for hopefully final approval on November 10th.
right, okay,
If it passes and the
So-
governor signs it, we'll,
yeah.
but it's still gonna take a while to reimburse because
Correct,
of the
yeah,
amount. It's
yeah.
probably
You wouldn't call it a windfall, but it is money owed to us that we may see some of it in
Mandated.
2021.
funding that they said they would pay,
Correct.
so.
Correct.
if
Yeah.
we get it.
Yeah, I mean, every full-time deputy that we go there costs the county about 14,000,
Yes.
not including overtime.
Mhm.
So, all right.
I just have one question for Jeff. On this, what he's asking for next year, and it looks to me like what we're projecting is gonna be used till the end of this year, there's approximately $100,000 left in the budget that should be, okay? Are there any of them items that are in his proposal could be purchased out of this year's, you know, you have items here like printers and, you know, things like that. Is that something that should be used up to keep the budget lower for next year? Or what would
I don't
be
know, I'd have to look, cause he put the projections together.
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't
it-
looked at it,
I
so I
mean, if
don't
you're
know if he
looking
has
at it-
available money anywhere
Yeah,
or not.
but no.
But then my point is, if he has available money in this year's budget, then next year's budget's probably, his request is probably wrong, because he didn't spend what he asked
Well,
for last
well,
year.
and
Well,
that's,
let me
Yeah.
comment on that, Jeff.
So-
I think what you're going to see is there are vacancies.
Yeah.
When we asked for some
Okay.
promotional things, we delayed vacancies, and right now we have 5 vacancies in the
Okay.
sheriff's office. So I
Okay.
think you're gonna see that some of the money that's there
so
is
that's all,
because,
that would be wasted,
because of
not,
personnel vacancies, not
not for
monies that are
material.
left. Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
if you look at that, I'm sure that's what you're gonna find.
okay.
Any further questions for the sheriff's office?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, and this
Thank you,
meeting is
gentlemen.
adjourned at 11:22.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right.